Surprisingly, it does feel pretty pleasant right now. They put gardenia scent at the Marriott. That's funny that you mentioned that. Do you do that?
We didn't get our
No, you smell it, right?
No,
Oh.
we didn't. Yeah, yeah, Birmingham, all that area.
It's just the new building smell.
Yeah.
I like that smell.
Oh, last time for the event? Or? I don't remember what it was last time.
That's a question for Jenna. She can tell you.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and call to order the special city council meeting for May 25th, 2022. Councilmember Mosley advised that he wasn't going to be able to make it with such short notice, and of course, Councilmember Saunders is still ill. So we'll get right to the only agenda item, which is Resolution 2022-29. You all should have a copy in front of you. This is regarding settlement of the case that we had discussed at a recent city council meeting. At that time, the council decided not to proceed with the settlement offer, which I believe was $25,000 with a 30, 50, 35, 30, $33,000 with the attorney's fees to be resolved at a later time. Since that time, we have gone back and forth through our attorneys with the Municipal League, who are here and available to answer any questions that you have, and ultimately arrived at a settlement agreement in the amount totaling $30,000, which would be $10,000 to the plaintiff and $20,000 to the attorneys in that matter. So what I'll go ahead and do is open the floor if there are any questions. The attorneys are here. There's 3 of them. So, Councilmember Holt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, I have several questions that I wrote down, so I won't forget what I was going to ask. The first question was, when was the original suit filed? It was back in 2015, or when did she originally file her suit?
I believe it was August of 2018. August of 2018, I believe.
2010?
18.
18?
Yes.
Why exactly has it been allowed to drag on this long, if you excuse my expression?
So most federal cases will last anywhere from about a year and a half, 2 years before you get to a trial date. And once we got to that point, unfortunately, the trials got continued, I think 3 separate times because of COVID. So that's why it's taken so long.
What was her exact cause that she was filing for? What was her claim?
It was an alleged violation of the Fair Labor Standards Act, which is basically, she's alleging that she had unpaid overtime. And the Arkansas Minimum Wage Act, which is the same thing.
I'll ask the city attorney about that in a minute. Whose watch was this on? Was this prior to, this occurred in the Public Service Department, right?
Public Works, yes, sir.
Public Works,
well,
sorry.
So it's Public Works, Streets, Sanitation.
Okay. Was this during Mr. Cogdill's, the end of his service, or was it the beginning of Mike Hogan? Or?
It was toward the beginning of Mr. Hogan's time.
Okay. Mayor Watson was well informed of this at that point, yes?
Yes, sir. You may recall in December of 18 is when we had the offer of judgment that the city council approved. That was his last council meeting. I was city attorney. We had city attorney-elect, then city attorney-elect Melissa Krebs was here, and I think she spoke on it as well.
Okay. From our last, as you just stated a few minutes ago, from our last meeting, we voted to not accept the offer and to go to court. And all of a sudden, we have this meeting and who initiated this, settlement or agreement or for us to come together, and was it us or with them?
I called the special meeting. As far as the settlement offers, they've been going back and forth periodically, probably the duration of the litigation.
But after we voted no, not to, and then go to court and as such, did they come back and say, well, let's sit down and talk about this?
Yeah, so they were kind of surprised that we came back with nothing. So they reached out to us again. And I know I expressed to them that the big hangup was really the unknown attorney's fees amount. And so we were able to discuss what it was that Ms. Corvo would be able to accept for liability, and then we were able to discuss what they would be willing to accept for attorney's fees. And we're able to come to like an actual dollar amount that I thought that was reasonable, that we all thought was reasonable, and that we thought was worth bringing to you guys and basically recommending that it's a good settlement and that the council should
So-
accept it.
It sounded to me as though this suddenly abrupt change, that maybe she might have been taking the advice of her attorney to go ahead and not pursue in case, she could lose or we could lose. I mean, in
Say
other
that
words,
again.
was it on her part also that it might be wise to go ahead and settle if at all possible?
I think there was certainly a lot of push from their side to they really wanted to settle.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
One last question. Major City Attorney, as I recall, this incident had to do with during the lunch hour period that she would come to the office and monitor the telephones, although she was not necessarily assigned that duty. And as I understood it, that at one point at least she was asked not to do that. That was the discussion that we had in the old council. So do we have any kind of an ongoing record in our own files as to who said what to who when all this was going on, or is it just sort of hearsay?
We have a number of records. We have binders full of records of different statements that were made at different times. And her statements have been different at different times. So, at the time that she made statements to the Department of Labor, it was more focused on the lunches. At the time she gave her deposition, it was extending into not just the lunches, but also evening work that she alleged that she did, that she was not compensated for, and alleged that we should have known about. So those are her allegations.
Okay. That's all the questions I had. I just wanted some details about before I actually vote as to what are we really doing. But if we can get it over with, I guess I'll vote yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Tierney?
Yes, I believe we have made an offer to her before that actually a check was issued and then returned. So if this were something we were to vote on, this is going to be done this time. There's no I changed my mind.
Yes, there'll be a settlement release signed by her, and yeah.
Okay. Well, I was very against the last offer because I thought it was way too high, and I was ready to say, hey, let's go to court, let's get this thing, settled in courts. But I think this is a much more reasonable offer, and so just to get this thing done, I'd make a motion to ratify the resolution 2022-29.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Tierney, I would like to very briefly say we didn't have a settlement offer with that check that was issued. The Department of Labor rules say that if we were to cut that check and give it to her, they would go away. They'd say whether she takes it or not, it's no longer a Department of Labor issue. It was just up to us. And
Okay.
so we cut that check and she returned it.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2022-29. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. This being the sole item of business for tonight, if there's nothing further, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All
Yes.
opposed say no. Motion carries. Thank you.
We just check it, what we do.
If it comes back